You know the feeling. It's the 4th of the month. The auto pays have just left your account. You open your banking app, you stare at the number that's left, and something cold settles in your chest. Not panic, just arithmetic. This isn't a story about getting rich. This is a story about one specific number, $20,000. And the exact moment your financial life in America stops being a question of survival and starts being a question of freedom. And I'm not saying this to make you feel bad. If you're watching this and you haven't hit that number yet, you're not behind. You're normal. But here's what nobody tells you about the day you finally cross it. Let me set the table for you. The gap between $0 and $20,000 is the hardest financial climb you will ever make. Today, I'll show you why that exact number is the firewall between you and disaster, how it literally changes the way your brain processes information, and the exact math of what your money starts doing in the background the moment you hit it. Before we talk about the other side of this number, we have to talk about the thing that lives on this side: scarcity. I'm not talking about poverty in the dictionary sense, Reichstaats. I'm talking about the psychological tax that gets paid by anyone whose bank balance is always one unexpected bill away from zero. It is 2 in the morning, and you are awake again. You are doing mental math in the dark. The rent cleared yesterday. The electricity is on a variable rate. And last month it jumped by $50. The car insurance renews next Tuesday. You move money from one pot to another on your phone, like a chess player with only pawns left. This is survival mode. In this mode, every single dollar has a job before it even hits your checking account. Rent, groceries, the phone bill, your gas tank. There's no slack, there's no room, there's no maybe. The Federal Reserve can cut interest rates. Congress can pass new tax laws. None of it reaches your kitchen table because every dollar you earn is completely pre-committed to keeping the lights on. This is what the American cost of living actually feels like from the inside. It is not a headline, it is a heartbeat. And the data shows just how incredibly common this heartbeat is. As of early 2026, roughly 53% of Americans do not have enough cash savings to cover an unexpected $1,000 emergency expense without borrowing, according to the Bankrate Annual Emergency Savings Report. Despite a massive national economy, the majority of the country is living exactly one broken transmission away from a financial crisis. And that constant low-grade panic does something to you. There is a famous behavioral science study from Princeton and Harvard that measured the cognitive bandwidth of people living under financial stress. The researchers found that the constant background noise of worrying about how you are going to pay for things reduced effective intelligence by roughly the equivalent of losing an entire night of sleep every single day, year after year. This is why people in scarcity make worse decisions. Not because they are worse people, not because they are lazy, but because half of their processing power is already being used just to survive the week. You cannot plan for 10 years from now when your brain is entirely consumed by next Tuesday. Now here's where it gets interesting. One ordinary Thursday. You refresh your banking app. You see the balance. And for the first time in your adult life, the number in front of you is $20,000. It does not feel like wealth, but it feels like silence. The chest pressure you have been carrying since you were 22 quietly lifts. The pressure you stopped noticing because it just became the weather you lived in, it is gone. Because $20,000 is not a luxury, it is a firewall. It is a wall of solid brick between you and a disaster. Consider what a disaster actually looks like in America. The transmission on the Honda gives up on the interstate. See, the HVAC system dies in July. A medical bill arrives in the mail after an emergency room visit. For the person with $500 in the bank, any one of these events is a full-blown crisis. It means a credit card maxed out at 29% interest. It means a humiliating phone call to a parent. It means falling behind on rent to pay the mechanic, which ruins your credit score, which makes your next apartment more expensive. It is a downward spiral triggered by everyday bad luck. For the person with $20,000 in the bank, that exact same event is just a Tuesday. You pay the mechanic. You hire the HVAC guy. You pay the hospital copay. The money leaves the account. And yes, it hurts to write the check, but it does not break you. You do not miss rent, you do not borrow at 29%. That is the pivot. Not wealth, not status. Just the quiet, unfamiliar sensation of a problem being solved by money, instead of a problem becoming a catastrophe. To understand why $20,000 is the specific magic number for this, we just have to look at the math. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics Consumer Expenditure Survey, the average single American spends about $4,716 per month. That covers housing, food, transportation, healthcare, and basic utilities. When you have $20,000 sitting in cash, you are holding exactly 4 months of a total firewall. 4 months where you could lose your job, have zero income coming in, and still keep your apartment, keep your car, and keep eating. You buy yourself 120 days of breathing room. And most people never feel that breathing room frights. The Federal Reserve Survey of Consumer Finances shows that the median savings account balance in the U.S. is just $7,000. So if you hit $20,000, you are mathematically far ahead of the middle class. You have separated yourself from the pack. But here's what nobody tells you about crossing that line. When you have that 4-month firewall, you reclaim your cognitive bandwidth. The 2 a.m. mental calculator switches off. You walk into work, and perhaps for the first time, you can actually think about the work. You notice that a senior manager is leaving. You see an opening on another team. You raise your hand in a meeting because you are no longer completely terrified of losing the job you already have. You ask for a raise. You can finally look your boss in the eye and say, I deserve more, without your voice shaking. Scarcity narrows the mind. A firewall of $20,000 widens it. That widening, that quiet expansion of what you are able to notice and consider is the first real dividend your savings pay you. It happens before you earn a single dollar of interest. So I've been there. I hit my late 20s with absolutely nothing to show for it, but but a used car and a lot of anxiety. When I finally scraped together my first real safety net, the biggest change wasn't the numbers on the screen. It was how I walked through a car dealership. It was how I answered the phone when HR called. The psychology of the person who can walk away is entirely different from the psychology of the person who cannot. Employers feel it. Dealerships feel it. You stop being the person bad situations happen to, and you become the person who negotiates. Stay with me on this one, because this is where the math really shifts in your favor. Once the firewall is built, the money itself starts to move. If you have $1,000 in a standard savings account, it does nothing. It just sits there losing value to inflation. But $20,000 is the exact mathematical threshold where compound interest finally has something heavy enough to actually work with. Let's look at the rule of 72. This is a simple piece of math. You divide the number 72 by your annual rate of return, and you get the number of years it takes for your money to double. At a long-run stock market return of roughly 7% after inflation, your money doubles every 10 years or so. If you put $20,000 into a standard index fund earning that 7%, it generates roughly $1,400 in the very first year. Think about what $1,400 actually is. That is a full month of rent in some cities. That is a month and a half of groceries. That is your car insurance for the entire year. Suddenly, your money is paying for a real tangible piece of your life. It is acting like a quiet employee who clocks in every single morning, works weekends, never takes a sick day, and hands you a check at the end of the year. $2,000 cannot do this work. $5,000 cannot do this work. $20,000 is the engine block. It is the crankshaft. It is the baseline foundation that makes every subsequent dollar you save multiply instead of evaporate. Follow the arithmetic. If you take that $20,000 at age 30 and just leave it alone, it becomes roughly $40,000 at 40. It becomes $80,000 at 50, and Calvin, it becomes $160,000 at 60. And that is if you never add another dime, but you will add more. Because the habits that got you to $20,000 do not just switch off, you built the muscle. When the takeout was skipped, when the subscription was canceled, when the bonus was saved rather than spent, you became a different person. You became a saver. And that kind of person, in a country where half the population has nothing, will eventually end up with everything. The first $20,000 is not a destination. It is proof. It is proof that for a sustained period of your life, you directed more money inward than you sent outward to corporations and credit card companies. It proves you can control your own behavior in a consumer economy designed to drain your wallet. Here's the truth I want you to walk away with. If you're staring at your banking app right now and you are far away from this number, do not panic. Every person who has $1 million today started with $10. But you have to start the engine. Do not leave your emergency fund in a checking account making 0%. Open a high-yield savings account or your first brokerage account today. Set up a single automated weekly transfer. Make it $50, make it $20, make it $10. It does not matter. Give every dollar a job before you have the chance to spend it. Build the wall brick by brick until the 2 a.m. math stops and the silence begins. If this hit home for you, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. I drop new videos breaking down American money 3 to 4 times a week. Thanks for watching. Take care of your money this week, and I'll see you in the next one.